In this video, I'm going to talk about why you shouldn't get corrected mid-conversation when you're speaking or practicing with native speakers in your target language. You might find that if you're saying something like you're introducing yourself or you're talking about a topic, you might find that the native speaker says, "Oh, wait, no, it's not this word, it's that word," or "Oh, it's better to say this instead," or "Oh, it's not quite right, you should say this." However, when you do that, it interrupts your flow of conversation, and it's much more important to be imperfect but be understood than to try and aim for perfection and being interrupted constantly. So, in this video, I'm going to talk about why that is the case and how you can overcome that to get closer to your fluency goals or to whatever language goals you have in less time. My name's James, I'm a native English speaker. Puedo hablar español y aunque puedo hablar italiano. I help people reach a conversational level in another language. So let's go over that main point again. It might seem useful that if you're talking with someone or you're practicing with a native speaker, that mid-conversation you're saying to them, "Oh yeah, can you correct me if I use the wrong conjugation or say the wrong word or something?" And then so I might be talking about, "Oh yeah, yesterday I go to the park and I enjoy it with my," and then they might say, "Oh, whoa, James, it's yesterday I went to the park," and you're like, "Oh, okay, thanks," and you feel a bit bad. The emotions that you experience are quite bad. You might go slightly red because you're talking with someone in a different language and it's hard for you already, and you might go, "Okay." So you try and remember what you said again. You try and remember their advice. So they've just given you a tip. You've got to remember two bits of information. One is the tip that they're giving you, which is the new way of saying that word. So it's not I go, it's I went. Okay, from go to went, super. That makes sense. I'm doing this in English just as an example. But then the other thing you've got to remember is what were you talking about before? So you were saying how you went to the park with your dog or whatever to walk it, and then you're going to continue. You were thinking about something to say and you were going to say it, but then they interrupted you. So you're now thinking, okay, I went to the park, cool. So I went to the park with my dog, and what was it that I was going to say? So that happens. It interrupts your flow of conversation. Instead of you coming out of that lesson thinking, wow, I can speak Spanish, or I can speak Italian, I can speak my target language, and I feel really good about it, your confidence is hindered, it's affected, it's reduced because you thought that you were good at saying that. You thought, okay, yeah, I'll say that, but instead you were sort of punished or told that you were incorrect, and we don't like that. We don't like being told that we're incorrect, so it's bad for your confidence. The alternative, instead of doing that, just to get straight to the point, is you wait until after you've finished saying either that thing or the end of the conversation or the call. So if you're on a sort of 1 hour or half an hour language lesson with a native speaker, if you ask them to wait until after you've said the thing, so I might say something like this. In English, I'm going to say something grammatically incorrect, but you'll hear the whole thing. So yesterday, I go for a walk with dog, and it's good. However, it rained and not like it. So go home instead. That is very, very bad. I'm trying to be bad on purpose as a native English speaker, but you might be saying the equivalent to that in your target language. So that was grammatically incorrect, but with my gestures and the line of conversation that you might expect me to say, given those words, you might expect me to say, okay, what did I do yesterday? Went for a walk with my dog, it rained, that sort of thing. You can get, based on the context, you can understand what I should have said. So you can understand me despite me being incorrect. On that note, I've created a free email course on how to learn a language despite having a busy lifestyle. It contains a range of tips and tricks and works for any language, suitable for all levels, and it helps you achieve your language goals in less time if you're really busy. There's a link in the description below to check it out. So what should happen is you wait until I say that, and it's like, okay, cool. Now you can either hit at this point say, oh, by the way, James, it's not I go for yesterday, it's I went because it's past tense. And I'd be like, oh, thank you. Well, I've finished that conversation now, so my mind now is more free to absorb the information, the correction that you've given me. Thank you. Or you could wait until at the end of the conversation, like after the hour lesson or half an hour lesson, and say, oh, by the way, James, you use quite a lot. You said I go for yesterday, but it's actually went. So just take note of that. And then there's a few other things you did, like repetitively, that were wrong, but they're here. But I still understood you, so well done anyway, because I understood you. And the benefit of that is during the conversation, as I'm trying to practice that language, if I say, oh yeah, I went to the park and everything, I did that, and at the end of it, the native speaker says to me, oh, that's interesting, that's cool. And they continue as if I didn't make any mistakes because they still understood me and they didn't correct me. So now I'm thinking, wow, James, you just said that 100% in your target language and you were understood. You might have been imperfect and probably you knew that you made a lot of mistakes, but you continued despite that. So fair play, and that now builds my confidence I can actually speak that language. despite not being perfect. So that's your aim. And the most important thing when it comes to language learning, or one of the most important things, is to feel good about the process, because ultimately it's not something you can get done in a day or a week or 2 weeks. It's just impossible. However, you can reach your goals in less time if you enjoy it. So you shouldn't really be thinking about the goal, you think about the process, because if it takes a few weeks or months, you have to enjoy it. Otherwise, any sane person wouldn't continue doing something they don't enjoy for so long. You just stop and other things will come up. So say you want to do something more fun, you'd go and do that. And that's where people say they don't have time for language learning. Some people, in some occasions, it's because they prioritize something else over it. So they might prioritize watching TV over language learning, which is fair enough, but it becomes a less hard choice. It becomes more favorable towards language learning if you enjoy the process more, and that starts by not being corrected while you're in mid conversation, so you can enjoy that conversation more, and it feels more like an accomplishment because you've been able to speak that language without being corrected constantly. So what's the advice I can give you to help get towards that stage? Well, naturally, you have a lot of platforms online that like Preply and Verbling, and all platforms like italki where you can pay a native speaker to practice with them. Alternatively, whatever method you're using to practice with a native speaker, what you can do is ask them at the start. Say, hi, yep, I'm James. I'm wanting to get better at Spanish or Italian. One thing I would like to ask is that please don't correct me mid-sentence. Please wait until after I've finished speaking, or at the end of the conversation, just take note of any regular errors that I'm making. If it's a one-off error, don't worry about it too much, because it might have just been me forgetting the way to say that in that moment. And I know the truth, I know the real answer, I know what the correct answer is, it's just I happened to make a mistake once. But if it's a regular occurrence, so say I'm constantly using the word go instead of went for past tense, then let me know, because then I can, after call, I have my brain capacity more free, because I'm not trying to talk a different language, which takes a lot of effort. I have more capacity free to look at my errors and think, right, so next time I want to say that, it's go, super, right. I'm now mentally fresh. I have capacity to think about the mistake, and I've already had the conversation. I already feel good about communicating with that person. So this is now a nice to have improvement. It's not a case of you can't communicate unless you get these things right. I know and I have evidence that I can speak that language. Not perfectly, but I can communicate and be understood. And that's what matters most, because that builds your confidence. The only reason you're not confident in speaking a different language, many of you, is because you've been knocked back in the past, either at school or someone said, oh, that's ridiculous. Oh, I'm offended as a native speaker. You've offended me by saying that wrong, which isn't very often. Most native speakers would be really pleased that you're trying to make effort speaking their language. So you've learnt to be not confident and a bit apprehensive or nervous about speaking a different language, because you've learnt in the past that if you make a mistake, you get punished for it. So by doing this, you're building on top of your confidence and helping you to get more confident, which in turn will make every practice session with a native speaker more fun. So yeah, long story short, ask the person you're practicing with to not correct you during conversation, and wait until the end, and make sure that it's only corrections you've done repetitively over a long period of time, essentially, or during the conversation. If you've done it again and again, then let you know about it when you've got free time. I will say that many language teachers have their own way of teaching, so if they're not instantly going to change for you, then don't blame them. But quite a lot of language teachers, or people you practice with online, will be very apprehensive and will be very understanding if you want to learn in this way. Ultimately, if you're paying them, they want you to continue giving them your money in that sense, because everyone needs to have money to survive. So with that said, they'll be able to accommodate any learning style that you want. If you tell them I'd like to learn about past tense or XYZ subject this time, they'll be like, okay, cool, you're paying me. I want to keep receiving your money. So yeah, as a client or customer, I will change to how you want it to be. But that's ultimately up to them. You can just ask them to not correct you every sentence, and it might take them a bit of adjustment, but just give them time. Anyway, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. YouTube is very good at recommending content for you that it thinks you'll benefit from, that you'll enjoy, and you'll get value from. So if you want to get closer to your language learning goals, up here or up here is a recommendation from YouTube. So I'd recommend if you click that and continue watching, and you'll get closer to your goals. Thanks.